Well, I'd certainly like to welcome everyone to this UNI Football Media Day. Thank you for coming out. Just to introduce myself, for those that don't know me, Colin McDonough, Assistant AD for Athletic Communications here at the University of Northern Iowa. Certainly appreciate your coverage throughout the year. Thank you for coming today. We'll go ahead and get started today with our head coach, Mark Farley, entering his 17th season with the Panthers, the all-time wins leader, 134 wins.
Coach, you mentioned already Missouri Valley Conference call the other day that Eli needs quality reps. What's that look like?
He just needs reps, you know, and the quality reps, when I say quality, you got to get game speed at him as best you can, and you got to get the receivers to run game speed routes because, you know, the timing is everything at the quarterback. Protection is everything at the quarterback, and getting the ball out on time. So when I say quality, he needs speed, game, speed reps. We can all practice, but you need game speed to be able to enter that first football game. By the time you get to the third, it all kind of, you've been through the games. He's had live games, so I've seen him play. But you can't, for a quarterback especially, you cannot replace experience. And he needs as much experience we can give him, along with Colton, the backup quarterback, and Christian, and then a couple of these young quarterbacks, Keller, Jacob Keller is also a guy. They all need experience. And as I told the whole room the other day, I don't believe I have been through a season at UNI that we got through the season with the same quarterback. So when you go through that all the way back to 2001, I was telling the story the other night, is 2001, we make the run. I believe it was Petrie that broke his collarbone. And then Griff Jurgens comes in. He runs the table to the Montana game. He got hurt, and we were played long enough that they got the collarbone healed and back to Tom Petrie. That's all in one season. And you can go right down the line of any year here. Some quarterback had to take a role throughout the season to win games. So we'll talk about Eli. He's our starting quarterback, no doubt. But I am also know that we have to have the other quarterback ready, who that becomes, because he will have to win a game this season for us somehow, some way with that other quarterback. Heck, last year that other quarterback turned out to be Colton Howell and Marcus Weimiller, okay, because we had to do a little bit of movement at Indiana State, and it worked out. But, we'll see what happens this year, but Eli's our starting quarterback.
How's your preseason changed? I mean, you got a lot of new guys, obviously, as assistants. How's that changed your approach coming into the season? You spent a lot more time with those guys, kind of, directing them.
The coaches?
Yeah.
That's why I'm hoarse. No, I'm kidding you. It's hard to holler in the dome because your voice doesn't carry in there, and we've been in the dome a couple of days. But what's been good about it is it brings a different set of eyes into the room, and when you don't want to become stagnant in everything, I like to get a different view of stuff. Sometimes you can't see the forest of the trees, is what Moosier always used to say. And I know this, the more guys look at it through a different set of eyes from different places, they can see some things that maybe you don't see immediately, but are evident after you are aware of them. And those are the things that when you get a bunch of guys together like this with different talents and skill sets, that they can bring different thoughts into the room. So I try to hire the most experienced guys with youth and with great futures. And I want them in the room because they need to be able to relate to our players and yet compete in a very strong coaching league. This is a very strong league of coaches. And you better be talented on a board, you better be talented as a recruiter, and you better be a great teacher. And I see that. I think I didn't know what these guys were going to say, but you need to see what they are. The one thing about UNI is we are who we are. We're not trying to fool anybody. This is who we are. This is how we play. And hopefully they will represent what we are when this is all said and done.
With Coach Bond and Coach Simmons here and Eli under center, how do you envision the identity of the offense this year, Coach?
The identity will be developed by the players. Every team takes its own course. This team will find that course when it happens. It's already been started, of course, what started back in January. Some things happened this summer that they became stronger, some units. So it will play out as it plays out. And you can't force anything upon them. It has to take the role of the players. So that's why, in fact, one coach, very, I forget who told him, you got to play, I think it was DP, you got to play the personality of the players. That's my belief. You can't force anything upon them. We have changed every year. based on the players that we've had. So we will go along. We will identify what becomes our strength, and that's what we'll play to.
Do you know who's going to be your play caller?
Yes. So, so we'll work through that, and I'll tell you when the time comes. But right now, that room is devised in such a way that Coach Simmons is a very strong individual, and the places that he's been and the systems that he's been, what I like about him is I think the number one position you got to have a strong coach at is offensive line. We have to get better at offensive line. So it's more about developing that culture of an offensive lineman at UNI, and I go along with a Walt Klinker, a Rick Nelson. Those guys were strong personalities, two different guys, but every great offensive line coach that I've been around has a strong demeanor about him, and his players will be tough, and they will respond at practice. That's what I wanted to create in that offensive line. Your offensive line is always your culture. It's not the quarterback. It's the offensive line. And then if you get two tight ends that are just as tough, then you got a chance. We have Elias and Briley, and I tell you what, those two are as good as tight ends at this point in their career as what we've had. And then now they have game experience. So you look at it, that's 6 positions of 11 on the field. That's the culture of our team. Everybody runs to the skill. I look to the line. And then the skill, their success will be based off how good the line is. And then you come back to the skill, you go look at the receivers. I think we can all look to the receivers, a lot of youth, a lot of speed, and a lot of unknowns, and only because of inexperience. It looks good on paper because of what they could be, but when you're looking at a bunch of guys that are 6'4", 6'5", that can run, you know you have a chance if they can catch and we can protect. And that's the group that needs to be honed to see what it become. But on paper, in the room, it's a good room. In fact, the other night, I think I said that as you go through that list, I mean, it's a lot of young guys that played as true freshmen here, and it's a lot of guys that were very, how do I say it? They were guys that were track guys in high school. So I feel good about that because you got to be able to move. So it's as good as room if we had a long, long time. Okay, I don't want to say it's as good as room if we had a long time, and it's got deep enough that we can get nicked up a little bit and still keep coming, and that's what you need to do. So I feel good about that. And then you look at the tailbacks. If anything, we're so used to big tailbacks around here. I mean, we've had a run of some guys, and as good as anybody around is proven out. But there's no David Johnson in that room, but what we should be looking for is exactly what DP said. You have guys that have been great players here in our room in comparison. From Corey Lewis, now it's Trevor Allen. It's Marcus Weimiller. He's a different kind of player. And Javion Browning. So there's guys back there. It's just what will they become because none of us have seen them. So, but nobody's anything without the O-line. There's no hole to run through. There's nothing to throw because you can't protect. And you can't move the ball if you can't move the line of scrimmage. So that's the culture of UNI football.
Coach, to follow up on the track athletes, just with Rima Williams and then Trousel just kind of getting in there, how have they translated? How's that speed translated to the turf?
That's a good question. We tripped out it a couple the first time. Because turf monsters out there. It's very nice to have a surface that's safe. We had an unsafe surface in there, and the product didn't hold up. And for a long time, you saw guys slip and slide and played in there. There's no question we struggled in there, and you never want to struggle on your own home football field. So we have a surface now that I was concerned. It's so, I don't want to call it so soft, but it's soft. And when I played, it was concrete. That was really fast. But now it's got a cushion to it, so anything with a cushion to it isn't as fast. But as I went through camps, because I don't time our own football players, as I went through high school camps, it's a fast surface because we had times like we used to have in there that stood out. The other turf, you couldn't get a good time on. You had 4.7s and 4.8s. You can get back into the 4.4s and the 4.5s on this surface, which tells me it's a good surface. And you can break on it. We couldn't break on the other surface. We'd slide. For every step you took, you'd slide 3. So you can break on this surface, and that's important because we recruit that. And I remember the other surface. I said, we're recruiting to this surface, which is a speed surface. And we can recruit speed. We just need a surface to play on that we can be fast on. So that's what we're looking for, and hopefully this surface will allow us to do that.
Coach, not to focus on today, but for just a moment, because it is going to happen this weekend. Kurt Warner goes in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
What does that do for the program? Is that something, I don't think capitalize is the right word, but is that something that you can amplify when you're out on the trail, when you're recruiting, when you're just interacting with people about the program?
I'll go to our meeting the other night. You're trying to teach young guys about UNI, okay? Because part of it, they become it in time. And when you look at our room, you got the seniors in the front and the freshmen in the back. So the seniors is what you see, okay? That's if you look at it like a tree, the roots start way back in the back as seedlings, and they grow into what you see on the surface. So your seniors are sitting up front row, and you got a bunch of redwoods and good looking oak trees. In the back, you see the seedlings, and you hope they'll grow into that. But they have to learn the way that we do it to become that kind of person. And Kurt Warner represents everything about UNI perseverance. I texted him on Saturday before he even started the week because it's Hall of Fame week. And the one thing that he represents, and I've told him this, his whole family does, his wife, and his son, and himself, his whole family represents perseverance, okay? And to me, that's the key to his success because he's that type of character. So yeah, we told him about that. The other thing this week that happens in the Hall of Fame game is the Cardinals, correct? So now you're going to line up with, as I watched on TV one day, the 7th player out of 100 in the NFL, David Johnson. So that's another Northern Iowa guy. And then when they go on defense, you can watch Xavier Williams play defensive tackle. So we got the running back, we got the defensive tackle, and then when they have the presentation, you'll have Kurt Warner receiving the award. So to me, we may be, and I didn't study this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but we may be the only program that has all three of those things happening on Hall of Fame week. So when you look at it in the big picture like that, it's kind of unique, and that's why we all ought to be very proud of our university of what's happened. And the last thing on the comment of this, because it's a good time to tie it in, as I sit back and I listen to our guys, those coaches speak, the common denominator they spoke about as they walked up in here is our community, correct? Every one of those guys says something about the community and the fans, and that's what makes this place roll. That's why it is what it is. It is the community that the people are drawn to in the end, and when you say that, that's the people that make a David Johnson, that make a Kurt Warner, that are at least a part of that process of what they become. Small, but effective. And I think that's what we all could be proud of because he came from like us, with us, and maybe just a little bit of us got the start that they're making the way and the success they're having.
In the Valley, the difference between a 5-6 team, an 8-3, or a 9-2 team is 10 or 20 points, which is evident of your team last year. What does this team have to do this year to find that 10 or 20 points?
It's what you develop right now. It's the little things. It's everything that matters. It's a kick. It's a block. It's a be on time. It's go to class. It's lift at 7:15 a.m. It's run in the dark and the rain and the snow, and we're down here at the track because there's no turf in the dome. It's finding ways to win and not worry about what you don't have, but find a way to win with what you do have and not worry about the other junk. So, yeah, that's what makes 4 points. I don't know what's going to get me the 4 points or what they don't know. I just know it's a culture. It's if you do your time, it's a lot harder to beat you if I put my time in, and I did those things, and I did them as 105 guys. You can't just have 5 guys do it. You can't have 150 guys do it. You got to get the majority to do it, and they all got to buy in. And 4 points is a very small difference, and that's what you talk about. So this league, I mean, shoot, the way I looked at it, I've read a bunch of FCS stuff. It's got there's 10 top players in FCS, and I think 5 of them are in this league. There's the top 10. There's 5 teams from this league in the top 10, and we ain't one of them. So it's a strong league. I'm telling you, it's strong coaches, it's strong players, and we go on the road for some very difficult games. So we have to run in the rain, the snow, and the slick track and the slick field. It doesn't matter, okay? We got a game coming up in September, and I got road games coming up that nobody cares where we come from. We're going to slap the helmet on, and we're going to go play our game.
Coach, trying to build depth everywhere right now, but which positions in particular, if any, stand out about where you need to build depth?
Good question. Depth. Actually, I feel good about depth in a lot of places, more so than I have in a lot of years. Old linemen. Last year I didn't think we had enough depth to be great. This year, right now, if I went on a travel roster, I'd take 9 guys. And now listen, when I say stuff, it's a standard too now. We talk about standards around here, not about being a starter. It's about standards of what these guys are talking about. That's what I coach to, okay? And the standard of our offensive line is good. So when I say a guy's a starter or could be a starter here, that means that I believe that our team could become, they're playing you got a chance to win the league if you make this standard level. Right now, I'd say there's 7 guys there that could be developed in by the end of camp or midway through the season. And I think 9 guys have the ability to. Now, can we get them there? That's our challenge. They're not there yet. But last year I couldn't have said that. Probably 3 last year. Now I can talk depth. When you say that, I always look for depth. If you got 2 inside linebackers, you need 3. If I got 3 guys that can win the league, we got a chance to win the league because somebody's going to get hurt. If we got 2 D tackles in there, I need 3 of them because somebody's going to get nicked up a little bit, but you still have to play. So I think we have depth in a lot of places. I'm not going to pinpoint one, but I'm sure when I get into this, it'll all come down to injuries. It's in our game right now, what do we get through camp? We got to come out of camp healthy, but we got to come out of camp ready to play too. And that's that balance you have to play right now is being able to get after that practice and yet get out of practice without, putting yourself in danger. So something will happen, but we have to move and get ready for the first football game no matter what happens, and hopefully that's where that depth will stand out.
The ground game took, I won't say a step back last year, it wasn't as productive last year. You think that's part of the offensive line, and you feel that the offensive line that you have this year is going to maybe get back to what you probably say is UNI Football?
That's everything. You said it. I don't know if it's the old line, it's the old line, it's the coach, it's me. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's the culture of that group, and it always starts with those 5 offensive linemen that start. But pick a team at Northern Iowa that wasn't great that you couldn't name 2 or 3 offensive linemen on. Okay, I flipped on the tape for them the other night, and I think there was 4 NFL starters on one group one time in 2007. But I just want to make sure they understand what standards are. That's a standard. Okay, that's what we're working at because that trail's already been blazed. All you have to do is put the time in because you have the skill set, but you're going to have to work like those guys did to attain that level. So I believe we have the people in place to play to that standard, and hopefully we can develop that. But yeah, if we do it right, we should be able to run the ball a little bit further than we did last year.
Who's the most impressive newcomers?
Good question. SUNY Lane jumps to my head. SUNY Lane is a nice-looking young man from Bettendorf, and really wasn't on my radar till late in recruiting. Just a very fluent, smooth athlete that's very big, very athletic. So he stands out just probably more as a surprise to me than anything else. And not that I didn't think he was, it was just how his skill set and what he is as a freshman it was a surprise. He really came in here, and if you just walk him when you walk past him on the floor, very smooth skill set. I mean, there's a lot there to work with. Let's put it that way. And then, for the Waterloo thing, Tyus Phillips. We just signed Tyus Phillips the other day. Tyus Phillips was the offensive lineman for Waterloo East, and we ended up through the whole process. I've always liked him. He's really big, but we really got into it, and Coach Simmons really liked him. And when your offensive line coach likes a guy, he's got great size. He's 6'7", 300 pounds today at 17 years old. We'll see what he becomes when he's 21 years old. But that's exactly what we need to do to get at UNI because we need that size we need a future, and then they have to apply the work. And, sky's the limit if they put their time in. So, but just a quick name that jumped to my head would be SUNY Lane. Anybody else?
Defensive line, you lose the defensive player of the year in FCS, but this group could be as good as they were last year. Maybe not better because of the depth you have there.
Yeah, we lost the player of the year in Carter, and go figure, 8-man football. I didn't know who Carter was either when he got here, and probably didn't know him after his first year. But Carter had that drive to him that it takes to win. So what I like about our team and the way that this place has been built is I'm going to go back to Sam Cooter teaching the group right now, because he was taught by the guys before him that were really good. And now you go back to D-line to answer your question. They kind of pass the baton around a little bit of who coaches who. And when you work in a group all day long for years and you kind of get used to what that room's like, so you become that room. Adam Reth is carrying the load right now of leadership. Preston Woods is carrying the load of leadership, sat in that room for 4 years now. Now it's his time to pass, the ideas of what it is to play that position and what you have to do during Indo. And then even Bryce Douglas is learning because he's in his second year, but being a transfer, he's starting to get that instilled in him. So when you throw a young guy in the room, or, Brinkman, he's just, he's got that mindset. So, but he has to learn from Adam, and you keep passing it on. So you put somebody in a room for 4 years with some guys, they kind of become like that room. But the room usually becomes like the coach. So I always look at the coach because there's a lot of similarities, personality, position, and the personality of the coach.
The Allen brothers kind of came here as a package, if you will. You still see them as that?
A package?
Yeah.
Well, they're characters, all right? But here's what I think about. I coach Andre, and I can see so much of Andre in the two of them, two totally different young men. And their mom is great. And I can see the influences of their mom in these two guys. But what I love about the two guys, and what you had to love, for those people that remember Andre Allen, what you loved about Andre Allen is how he loved to play. He loved showtime. He loved game day. And he enjoyed the showmanship of the game. And take nothing from those two guys. They enjoy the game. And their personalities are very fun to be around. And they can take a tough instance and make it kind of a chuckle, because they got that personality where they keep that slight humor to everything, and they play hard and practice hard. So I can see the similarities, but those two have really brought a lot of personality to both their sides of the ball, offense and defense.
You've brought up Sam Cooter twice now. It's just a guy that's really shown a lot of good senior leadership for you guys. He was all-conference honorable mention last year, preseason all-conference honorable mention. You think he can even strive for more than that his senior year?
Yes, because Sam's kind of always been the one that was in the shadows of everything, and but Sam can go out there and punt the ball 70 yards if he wants to, and Sam was the one that's catching the PAT field goals. Then he goes from right to left on top of it. So somebody go out and try to catch one for left-handed when you're a right-handed person. That takes a skill set. He makes it look like it's easy. That takes practice. You just don't go out and do that stuff. So when you look at an Adam Reth in the weight room, you look at Sam Cooter's time on the field, but what you don't know is Sam Cooter may be pound for pound the strongest player on this football team. I mean, when guys walk in, they say, "That's your punter." I go, "Yeah, that's the punter." Okay, but that's the standard too. All right. So, but he may be pound for pound the strongest guy in that room.
Coach, you talked a little bit about the league and how it's kind of daunting, but when you look at your out-of-conference opponents, there's a lot of pretty formidable opponents on there as well. I describe looking at that as a daunting schedule. How would you describe your upcoming schedule for this season?
A challenging one, because we need to, depth is important, because when you get into a challenge like that, you're going to take some solid hits. I look at the kinds of teams you're playing. Some are Big Ten style, power type football. Some are more spread with speed in it. When you get into power games, you're going to get some hits at the line of scrimmage. You get in a Cal Poly game, you're going to get cut all the time. What are you going to do? Because those are all things that are going to wear and tear on you as you progress through a season. So I look at depth at the positions, knowing what we're going to be up against, anticipate that something's going to happen, that you need to make a replacement along the way, but it cannot affect the season because you got to keep moving and get to the next week. So the challenge is to get enough depth at each position to get them lined up and then get them lined up. And truthfully, what we've been doing for 5 days is I was looking at, do we have enough D tackles to do what we're going to do, and do we have enough receivers? What personnel group are we going to be in? Are we going to be in 3 receivers, 4 receivers, 2 running backs? What's going to go on the field? And we got 2 good tight ends we talked about. Well, what's your main personnel group then? Well, that group has to have the ability to get nicked a little bit and then get the next replacement in, and it looks the same no matter who's in the game. And that's why we're just trying to balance. I got some movement left here to move some guys around to create that depth and then use the remainder of camp to get them ready. So to answer your question, depth is the challenge to meet the challenge of the type of teams that we play. And then to go head-to-head to get these guys taught and lined up correctly, schematically, because the league is a very strong coaching league right now. It is. It's got some really good coaches in this league and good recruiting going on. I mean, this league has become the best of FCS football.
Coach, a little bit of a big picture question. Reported a couple weeks ago that the Big Ten is going to reverse its ban on not playing FCS football, at least partially. Were you surprised by that at all? And do you take it as a little bit of a sign that, hey, our level of football is getting pretty respected at a big-time level?
I think by how that all unfolded with them leaving and nobody following, meaning they weren't going to play FCS and nobody followed them, and then they have now rethought the process to see where they want to land in that. I think there is a respect factor there because they have come back and at least thought through the process of playing FCS football. And I think it's great for FCS football. There's no question it's tremendous for UNI football. We need to play Iowa State. We need to play Iowa. We need to play the Wisconsin game, the BYU game, wherever you want to send us. We need to play that game. We need to play it. We are competitive in that game, and we need to play it for our teams, and we need to play it for our university. And there's business behind that, but there's also respect and quality behind that. So when you throw names around as far as players and teams and stuff like that, we all know here that FCS football is excellent football and can line up on any time, and get on any field and be competitive on that field for a weekend.
Did you ever get the feeling though that Iowa always enjoyed playing you guys? They didn't really necessarily maybe agree with the entire policy, that it was just Big Ten, it had nothing to do with it?
No, Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa and Iowa State have been, I want to even say the word loyal. Those two have been very loyal and respectful. I don't know if that's the right word, but been very respectful of playing us and wanting to play us. I mean, it hasn't been, we aren't going to play those guys. I've never, in the 17 years that I've been here, had those two programs uttered down this hallway that they won't play us in football. Sometimes they can't because of scheduling. Sometimes they can't because of how things lined up. But I have never in 17 years, those two schools say that, hey, we ain't going to play those guys for whatever reason. They're always, actually, I believe they want to when it fits in some of the things that they have to meet with their programs. No, I'm very thankful. That's why I like this. I'm telling you, Iowa's a great place. These new coaches are figuring that out. Anybody else? Thanks for coming.